So building your first 100 app with Kotlin. Thank you all those who joined. So today basically it'll be going over some basics, getting started with Android and the studio stuff, building your very basic application. It'll be a dice roller application. We look at how we will create a screen, how we do it, how we add logic to our 100 apps, and most importantly, how we do it with Kotlin, since that's the way going forward. Yeah. So about me. So I'm David Odari. I'm currently an Android engineer at Chicago. I've been doing Android for about almost 4 years now. Other than work stuff, I'm also currently a Google Associate Android developer. Other than that, I do speaking stuff sometimes. I write blogs. If you like reading, you can check out some of my blogs. And yeah, outside Android stuff, I'm always cool to talk about sci-fi, crazy conspiracy theories, etc. So I think we can now get into the main business, which is Kotlin and Android. So I think, okay, if in Campus or if we did Android maybe sometime back, also currently, like Android apps have been written in Java for the longest time. And I think 2018, or was it last year, Kotlin became first class, a first class language in Android. Now, what does first class language mean? It means that whenever the Android team wants to roll out a new library, new features in relation to Android, they'll be done Kotlin first, then Java later. So most top rated apps in the App Store nowadays are being rewritten in Kotlin. I think over 70% of the apps on the App Store are written in Kotlin. And Android is not just the only thing you can do with Kotlin. You can do multi-platform, which is also something which is coming up, meaning you can have one code base and use it for your Android and iOS apps. Also, you can do Kotlin for like what Java could do. Kotlin can still do the same with less code. That's what they mean by writing concise code. Other things which Kotlin brings is null safety. So yeah, it's easier to handle the null cases which you normally see in Java, NPE errors, and all the red stuff on the terminal and lockat. Due to NPEs, they'll still be there, but they'll be less than usual. Yeah, so basically Kotlin is now what most people use. Also at my workplace, this is what we use full time. Our app is almost fully Kotlin, and the Java that's still there, we're still rewriting it to Kotlin. So yeah, so starting off with Kotlin, I think is the best idea if you're getting into Android development at the moment. So Android. So basically Android. So Kotlin is just the language which we now build the Android apps with. Android in itself is the OS and sort of like the framework in which our apps live on. And so I think today I won't talk much. I'll just be showing you practical stuff. I think that's something, and hopefully you get something which you can take home with you. All right, I think I will first of all leave the presentation and we can get started with Android Studio. So first to demo what we're going to build, it's going to be a simple dice roll application. So we'll look at how we'll add these dice images. I will have this button and make it interactive and creating the layouts. And yeah, so I think at the end of this, you just know how to maybe install Android Studio, create an app, create the layout, tie the logic, and you can just carry it on and build something cool for yourself. So the tool which we use to create our Android apps is Android Studio. And if you are like getting started with Android, I know like setting up Android Studio and all that jazz can be quite hectic. So what I'd recommend you to use is there's this tool called Jetbrains Toolbox. It's available on all the operating systems. So all you just do is install the toolbox. It will handle the installation of whatever IDE you want. So you'll have to look for the Android Studio from the list. Install Android Studio and let it do the magic for you, the stress solved. And after it's done installing, you'll see this window over here. So you will see this Android Studio window. And yeah, so depending with the Android Studio version you'll see the version here, the number of the version of Android Studio using currently. I use Canary. I'm one of those people who love to live on the edge. Though if you're a beginner, I wouldn't recommend using the Canary version. Instead, go for this stable version, the one with the green icon. Yeah. So we will. So first things first, we create a new project. We will choose the empty activity. Then we will call our application. This is the favorite application name. We'll call it the Dice Roller app. The package name is just like a unique identifier, which will be used when you publish your app to the Play Store. This is how each app has its own unique ID. Yeah, choose where you'll save your application. And now, since you're using Kotlin, yeah, you have the option of using Java and Kotlin, but I'd highly recommend if you are starting Android to start it with Kotlin at the moment. Yeah. And the minimum SDK. So also if you're new in Android, what this means is you only apps which are Android 5, meaning Android Lollipop and above, are the only ones which will be able to install the application. So if you, for example, put it at Android 9, all these other lower versions would be able to use the app. So I usually go with Lollipop, and then we can finish this. So you've installed Android Studio, you've created a new project, and now you want to build your first app. So once you create like your very, very, very fast app, and it should be able to run. So you can just come here on run at the top. There's usually this run button, click run, and you'll see the basic app which Android Studio creates for you by default. Okay, Gradle doing its thing again. Nice. Launch succeeded. So yeah. So once you run your first app, and that is how you do the hello world in Android, you do not write any line of code. All you have to do is just install Android Studio, create a new project, and hit run. And there you go. Hello world. And you now have your first Android app. But now we want to make things a little bit interesting. So I'm going to go through like how the folders, where do we add a button, how do we make a button respond to something, and the likes. So we're going to go through like the structure. So on the IDE, usually this pane over here, you can either view, there's this Android option or project. I'll go with project. This shows you all the files. Like the Android one usually filters out other things you won't be able to see, and they would be shown exactly as they are in the file directory of the file system. So whenever you create your app, I think the most important folder is usually the app folder. So the app folder is usually where all your code lives, where you add your libraries. If you want to add special functionality, let's say maybe you want to use something to do with biometrics in your app for security and whatnot. So this is where you'll be adding things. This is where your code lives. This is where your layout for your screen lives. What else? This is where there's something called a manifest, which we'll look into later. This is what like registers your app in the phone. This is how like your app is able to be identified and the likes. So the first place I take you to is the layout. So there's this app folder, right? Then there's SRC, meaning this is like the source of all the code, all the layout things. Then under the SRC, we have Android tests. So I think for starters, people don't usually like write tests when they're getting started. First, you have to like learn a bit of the basics first before you like dive into tests. But once you're like ready and have some experience, you can also look into tests. So there are usually two types of tests in Android. You can say there's Android test and test. So just to like highlight what these are, though we won't be diving into them. Android tests, these are like tests which run on the app. For example, you want to make sure that some cool animation or something is shown on the screen. As for the tests, this is just they do not require the to be shown on the screen. Like for example, saving something to a database or saving some data. This does not require like a screen or buttons or anything of the sort. So such tests are usually here. And now there's this main. Now main is what was our like the code which the logic, basically the logic of the app, the screens of the app, the icons, and the manifest, as I talked about earlier, and all the images and everything that you see in an app. So under this main folder, we have two other folders. One is the Java, and one is Res. So probably you might ask yourself, why is the folder called Java and we're using Kotlin? So this is, I think, something that the Android Studio team is still addressing. So they're supposed to change this to like Kotlin, but it's been a standard. I think almost all languages which use the JVM, the Java Virtual Machine, like Java compiles to JVM, Kotlin does the same, and I think also Groovy, Scala, all these are called JVM languages, and they all compile to Java bytecode. So I guess this could be another reason why they've left it as Java. And the rest is where we put our layout files. So we'll go straight to the layout first before we like look into the code. Let me just close that, in fact. So under the rest, we have the layout. And under the layout, we have this XML. So layouts are usually written in XML. And this is how XML it uses things called tags. Like this, these are called tags to like create the layout and whatnot. So this was the screen that we saw with the hello world, and it is hosted by something called a layout. So we have a couple of layouts in Android. If it's so it depends with the use case. If you want things aligned maybe top to bottom or left to right, we use something called a linear layout. If you need things overlapping each other, we use something called a frame layout. If you need things positioned relative to each other, let's say for example, I want this to be to the right of this, I want this to be to the bottom of this, I want this to be to the top of this. There's something you can either use something called relative layout or a constraint layout. So basically that's what it means to align things relative to each other. And so by default, Android Studio creates the constraint layout for you. And then this is something called a text view. So text views are what we use to show text. Any text that you see on an Android app is being shown by a text view. And there are also many other types of components. Let me see if I can access that component menu, design. Yes, nice. So there's usually this option over here you can either see the XML code or you can see the design side. Yeah, with the design side of things, you can just drag and drop things as you wish. Yeah, so it depends on the preference. If you want to write XML, you can go the code side. If you want to drag and drop things, you can go the design side of things. So there's a text view for text, there's a button for buttons, image views just for showing images, recycler view. These are not like lists, like when you scroll through maybe your WhatsApp chats, the Twitter feed. I think recycler views are used extensively. I think almost all apps that you do use have a recycler view. Fragment container view, I'll skip this for now. You can check it out when you start learning about fragments. A scroll view just enables, for example, let's say a text view, right? If you have like rich text that will overlap the screen, you can add a scroll, maybe a scroll view to it, and someone can just like scroll through the really long text. A switch, just like on and off things, like you'd see in settings, or turning on and off something, for example, Wi-Fi. And yeah, so basically these are like the most common views you're going to see. I think almost day to day, this is just everything you see on the Android app, they consist of this. And this is what you saw before, hello world. So how does this layout get shown on the screen? So there's actually code which does this. So under the main res layout, then the name of the layout that was shown. Then we come now to the Java. Now this is where the logic lives. That these things called activities. So usually a screen can either be something called an activity or a fragment, but to keep it simple, we're going to look at activities. So activities are just things that the user can interact with, or they can see and interact with. They like host the logic. It's like the entry point basically to our app. And when you create the first app, you'll have this main activity. And this is how it will look like in Kotlin. This is how, okay. Let me check in with just to see. Yeah, I think because like talking to myself feels very weird. So I have to keep on checking in with the chat section to see if there's anything going on. Cool. So we have this main activity. We've created our basic app. This is our first app. It's up, it's running, it's showing our hello world. So I've just shown you this layout, right? So there's this method called set content view. If I was to remove this, we won't be able to see our layout. This is what like now takes our layout and adds it to the it's like there's already code which has already been written for you, and the method is called set content view. So all it does, it takes the ID of that layout. Remember this layout that we saw? Yeah, but basically there's this method called set content view that has already been done for you. You pass in the layout that you already created, and it'll like once you pass in the layout to this activity, meaning as I said, like the activity is what the user sees, what the user interacts with. So if you want like how you want that activity to look like, you use the set content view and pass in the layout, which you've added your buttons, your images, and all that whatnots. And then there's this on create. So basically when the screen is first shown, this is the method that is called. So if you want to do anything when that screen is first shown, we usually do it on this method called on create. There are other types of we call them life cycle methods. You can write that down somewhere and look it up later. When the user let's say for example is on a call and the call ends and they come back to your app, there's another callback for that. Or if a user puts your app in the background, or if I'm switching between apps, such method, there are methods for each scenario, and you can look at them. They're called life cycle. Yeah, they're called the activity life cycle callbacks. So we've created the first hello world. We've created our layout, our activity, the entry point. The main activity is usually like the entry point. It can be it's like the entry point basically to our app. So how does Android Studio know that main activity is the entry point to our app? So as I was saying, how does the app know that the main activity is what should be used as the one to launch to show the first screen? So there's this file on so like we said, there's app, src, main. We've looked at the what lives in the Java. That's really like our logic, and the res is like the layout, and the manifest is now what is like the what I can call it like the ID of our app. It has like our package, the package name for the app. It has location to the app icons. It has the app name. Basically, it's like the whole configuration of the app lives here. Like what's needed, it's used by the system to like identify your app. So as you can see, there's this something called activity tag. And this activity tag has things called an intent filter, and there's this part called launcher. So what basically this means is we'll use the main activity to launch our application. So if we like create another activity and we want that activity to be the one that will always be launched when like the user taps your app icon, then this launcher tag is what's needed. So what else? In the res, another important thing I think is this Mipmaps. These are just the where your app icons live. The drawable folders are where the images or any media, not really media, but visual media lives. Things like sound media and stuff like that, they have their own folder, which you can always check out some other time. But for like visual media, they live in these things called drawables. Bitmaps, those are app icons. Values, these are where like your app colors, the theme of the whole application. Strings, okay, strings are usually leave, for example, if you want your app to be in English, Swahili, German, Portuguese. So you'll have like strings for different countries. So this is where like strings live. So that's like an overview of what is under the SRC folder. And the final most important, I think this is one of the most important parts of this under the application folder is something called the build.gradle. Here is where now you like put in the libraries you're using. For example, Kotlin. For we're using Kotlin, you'll see there's this Kotlin Studio Lib, the Android X, like the core Android thing, like being able to create to import, for example, buttons, import things like things like buttons, the text views. Like this is where basically all the your app libraries your app requires, the dependencies your app requires, basically everything that your app needs to function, to write the code. This is what usually it's like a what can I call it? It's like the package. If you're coming from web, I think I'd call it like I don't know if it's npm or something like this. Like this is where we put our dependencies, basically. Yeah. And what else? What else is important here? We have the app version is also included in the build.gradle. The compile SDK version. So this one usually update it when there's like a new Android version. So this means like I've tested my app on API 30, which is maybe Android, the latest Android, I guess. Like I've tested my app on Android 30 and it's cool. Sure, like your app will work on if API, like if the next version is Android 12, I guess, that will be like API 31. So if that comes out, yes, your app will still run on it, but it will not be sufficiently tested. So you're not sure of all the edge cases. So basically, this is where you like put all that configuration stuff. So let's get to the app that we are supposed to build, which is a dice roller app. So first things first, we need to put the dice images, right? And like I said, the drawable is where this is where our what can I say, the visual media lives. So I can just go ahead and copy this dice images. Nice. So now we have the dice images that we will be using. So we want, like, each time, basically wants to roll, click on a button and roll the dice and show a different, like, the number on the dice. So what we'll need to do next is come to the layout. So now that we already ran our first, we already did our first run with Hello World. Now we do not need it anymore, and so I will delete this. So personally, I usually just use the code view, but if we're getting started, I think maybe we would prefer using the design. So what we need is the image view to show our images. So once you drag it over there, you can, like, choose something which will be previewed with the image. Yes. So as you can see, the dice is quite large, so we can fix this. And how we can fix this is there's usually these two attributes called layout width and layout height. So what we can do is perhaps provide a fixed, you can say, like, we want the width to be 120 dp. So that's the unit we use. They're used to, like, okay, maybe you're used to things like pixels, EMs, and whatnot. So on Android layouts, we use dp on layouts. So the dp will be converted depending on the screen size. Then for the height, we can use something like, I don't know, 76. Okay. Yeah. And that should be it. Yeah, it looks rather small. Make, like, increase the size to, like, 120, 120. Yeah, since it's a dice, that should look awesome. Then another cool thing with, like, using the design, you can just, like, drag. How you put it is how it will be shown. Cool. Then next we need, like, a button which we'll be using to roll our dice. Oh, one more thing. So that we can be able to, like, access this dice from our code, where you have something called an ID. So this ID is what we'll use on code. So I can call this, like, the dice image view. Yes. So you can call it, like, a dice image view. Next, we need, like, the button which we will be rolling. I'll put it over there. Somewhere over there. Nice. So this button is perfectly sized. What else? So you want to, like, change the text on the button, so you can, like, look at the attributes. So when you add something over here, there'll be this pane for attributes. You can look at if you want to, like, change the color, if you want to add an icon, if you want to change, I don't know, the text style, or whatever it is you want to change about the thing. There's this attributes panel over here. So what I want to change is the text to roll. Nice. Cool. Yeah, roll. Nice. Looks nice. Then it needs an ID so that you can be able to access it from the code. So I'll call this roll dice one. Nice. That's it. So our layout is ready. We have the image view. We have the rolling thing. So I think I'm going to change. Okay, since, like, we are aligning things vertically, as I talked about before, we have layouts. I can use something called a linear layout. Since linear layouts are usually perfect, all you're doing is just, like, aligning things top to bottom or left to right. So I can just change this to linear layout. Linear. Constraint is usually perfect if your screen is very complex. So another thing with linear layout, you have to tell it, like, orientation. Are you, like, aligning things left to right or top to bottom? If it's top to bottom, go with vertical. And now it should be set. So one more thing we can now do is, I think, with linear layout, I think we'll have to adjust a couple of things for it to be at the center. All attributes. Yeah, there's this layout gravity center. Yeah, then you come to roll. Then I'll also come to layout gravity and JK layout gravity center. Nice. Then yeah, that's cool. So yeah, we can now go ahead and create. If we now run our app, oops, wrong form. That one, this one. We now run our app. We should now see the so nothing is happening when you click. We've just created our layout. That's all. Now we want to add the logic. Now we want to add the logic of rolling the dice and just changing this thing and making it look cool. So what we will do is on this roll, it's called roll dice button. We'll now go to this main activity. And now what we will do is create something called roll dice button. Kotlin, this is how we write the type. It's a button. And no, I think, yeah, okay. I think I'm going a little ahead of myself. So I'm going to write it here. Well, roll dice button. I'm going to write this button. Then I'm going to find. So this what this find view by ID does. It will remember the ID that we used to name the button and the image. That is what we will use here. So the ID is r.id. This ID which we write over here. This, which is roll dice button. Nice. Then we'll also need the image view. Image view. And the image view. And basically what this is, you're finding a view by ID, which is the image view, and the ID is r.id.dice image view. Cool. So if you are used to like Java, you can notice like we don't use semicolons over here. We don't specify a type when you're creating a variable. You only use val. We do not want to change, since like we only have that one, but that button is not changing. So val means like it's immutable, it can't be changed. If you use var, it means it can be changed. It's like, okay, using val usually like best practice most of the time, unless you really have a good reason. So yeah, basically this is how we now we have the layout with our image view with our button. Now this is how we bind the code to the layout. So we have the button and we have the image view. So we want each time we roll the dice, something happens, right? So you can come and say roll dice button, and there's this method called set on click listener. So basically what this does is it registers a click listener. So each time someone taps the button, it will do the whatever code you write over here, right? So for example, if you can like, there's this thing called toast, like toast. So basically a toast is hey, we clicked, and toast length long show. So basically, whenever you click something, this code over here will be called. So yeah. So what you want to do is whenever we tap the button, you want this dice icon to be updated with the images that we do have. So each time, so what you can do is we take the image view and we can set an image drawable. So you do remember, like I talked about drawables and I call them like the visual media, and you do remember I added like the dice under the drawable folder. So we're going to set image drawables. We're going to be setting this dice images, and currently by default it shows us the one with one at the top. So for a test, for example, we can set our drawable. Let's say we can try to set it to dice 6 and see. What does this require? Found required drawable. Okay, so I'm supposed to do something else. Context get drawable. So I can do this. I can say val dice drawable. Then call context compat get drawable. So this will be this. Okay, what this context compat and get drawable does, it gives you access to this drawables. You're able to access these drawables. So all I need to do is pass in a context. Context actually passed with this and the ID of my drawable. So for example, I want to use dice. Oh, sure. It's r.drawable dot dice, and we can say dice drawable. So when I click my image, I want it to show me dice 6. So let's give it a try. So it's currently 1 is at the top. When I hit the button, see, it shows us 6. But now each time it's going to, like, once it's 6, it's stuck at 6. So, and like a dice roll is usually something which is very random. So we will need to like randomize the dice, the dice value which you get here. So we can say val dice drawable IDs. We want to get random dice IDs, right? Rather than have something fixed, we want to get this drawable. Let me call it ID. We want to get a random dice ID. So we'll just create a new function. So this is how we create functions in Kotlin. We just say fun, then the name of the function, then we add the type. We'll be getting a ID. So IDs are usually integers. So yeah, so we'll be getting like random dice IDs. So each time you click, it will be having like a very random dice ID. And so we will return. No, wait. So we have in Kotlin, we also have something called a when expression. So when you can use this when generate like random. So we can say 0, which how can I randomize this? There's a random. There's something with random in Kotlin. Next int. So we have like 6 dice images. So I'm going to the until is like it will have like random numbers from 0 until, let's say, wait, is it inclusive? Let's say 7, right? Yeah, so we'll have random numbers from until 7. So when this random number, if it's let's say if it's 0, we'll use the first ID. We'll use the first dice. If it's 1, we'll use the drawable dice 2. If it's 2, we'll use r.drawable dice 3. We'll use r.drawable dice 4, etc, etc, etc. Dice 5, dice 6. So I think I'll just reduce this to like 6. Else, just show us dice 6. So the good thing with Kotlin, you can also like return this when. Yes. So we'll just be generating random variables. So if it's 0, do this. If it's 1, do this. If it's 2, use this drawable. If it's 3, and the likes. Also, since you're not using this function outside this class, you can just make it private. And that's it. Let's see if this works. The fingers crossed it does work. Okay, let's see. Nice. Yeah. So there you go. I want to see if it's yeah, cool. So there you go. It rolls a dice for you. 1 to 6, all of them are shown, and that's a very simple way of just rolling a die, creating a very simple and a basic application of rolling a die with the Android using Kotlin. So that's it, I guess. So basically what we've just done is I've shown you the overview of what the app folder entails. This is where like code lives, what the SRC folder contains with the tests, what the main folder has, what the test folder has, what the build.gradle does, the main activity or the activity which is the entry point of the app, and using the manifest, how the system knows that this is the activity to use when launching the app. And what else have we done is on the layout, how to drag and drop and how to edit attributes of a button or image or whatever it is that you want, how to adjust the dimensions of like the image and all these things. And yeah, I think that's pretty much enough for you to actually like build your own application, or even I think if you actually conversant with all this, what I've just done, just a little practice, you can actually that's skills that you can actually use on your day. These are skills that I use on my day-to-day job. And yeah, I think what I can add as an extra is adding app icons under this Mipmap folder. What you can do if you want to like add app icons, there's usually when you right click on the res folder, click on new, come all the way to, was it vector? Is it image? No, it's not vector. It's new image. Yeah, new image asset. Icon type, leave it as launcher, blah, 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 leave it. So here on the path, if you have your icons ready or something or prepared, this is where you actually go and look for your icons. Then it will take care of, let me see if I have a sample which I can like show you. For example, this. So yeah, like it will take care of like creating the icons for you, like can add a background color. Maybe I can put like white. And yeah, that's how you create like your icons really fast. And if we click next, yeah, it will just override the app icon, and there you go. So the next time we run our application, we should see that it has a different kind of icon. Let's see. Yeah, so you see my dice roller now has a really dope icon. Yeah, so basically that's it in terms of getting started with basic building a basic Android application. And yeah, so I don't know if there's any questions. So yeah, those were the milestones I was aiming at: the Android project structure, creating a screen layout, working with buttons, and adding images. So yeah, that marks the end of it. So I don't know if there are any questions. I'm not sure if I was actually audible because I've just been talking and doing this thing online. So are there questions? So which question should I start with? So just, I don't know. At the same, explain that syntax, okay? Which syntax? Okay, let me share my screen again. Sure. So, the Kotlin syntax. Okay. We're getting like started from scratch with Kotlin. I'd recommend a course by Udacity, getting started with Kotlin development. I'll share the link to it. If you're coming from Java, I think what I can highlight here is we do not, for example, here for inheritance, we do not use extends. We use this colon to show like we're inheriting from something. The same is used for interfaces. You don't use implements. Class is the same. We do not for override. Fun is the function, and yeah, the access modifiers are still the same. Private. We don't use public here. I think by default things are just public. There are other type. These are the access modifiers I'm talking about. We have others like internal. Yes, those are the ones that come to mind. This is how we write our functions in Kotlin. We just write fun, the function name, and the type which you expect the function to return. Also, the same returns thing is common. I just decided to use return. I think for people who are familiar with Kotlin will have wanted me to use the equals to, and so I think to just keep it straightforward, I'll just use return. If you're familiar with switch statements, in Kotlin you use when statements. Also, I think if it was Java, you would have like written the type here, button, roll this button equals to, and cast it to a button. But with Kotlin, you don't write like types. We use val or var to declare variables. And I think that's basically it. These other things like lambdas and whatnot, I will not touch on those now. Maybe I can just point you to resources since it might require like some time to go deep into it. But if you have any questions regarding to Kotlin syntax, I'm available. You can always ping me. Ben is asking, what's the difference? Random next int. Okay, so second one is specify the image. Okay, yeah, so I think Hadron was answering that. First, we need to get rid of the numbers. So, okay, the random next int, the number which I put until, like I want it to generate numbers until that, from 0 until that value. I don't know if I'm getting you correctly. Yeah, like I don't think like adding plus one, for me personally, I feel is like making the code readability a bit. I think you can just put the until value, just put it one value higher rather than just use the plus one. To make, in terms of code readability, I think that's, for me, I think that's better. Then the one that looks like a lambda, or the one that looks like a lambda. Oh, okay. I think the on-click listener, like, okay. Oh, this set on-click. So lambdas, lambdas. So we call them. What can I talk? What can I say about lambdas? So basically, lambdas are like they take in like a block of code which they run. I don't know if I can jump to this. Oh, okay. So since that hasn't been implemented, but basically they just like pass in some code to it and to run it for you behind the scenes. I don't know, man. I think I'll send you like a perfect resource to get started with lambdas from scratch, since I think lambdas they're used extensively in Kotlin, and we'll see them time and again. And I think having a good foundation with lambdas will really can even like change how you write your code greatly and make that's now leaning more into functional programming style. Yeah, so I think I'll just like share some resources about lambdas. Yeah. Yeah. But if you have any questions while also learning about something new, lambdas or Kotlin syntax, or have any questions, I'm always available on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on whatever platform you find me on. Yeah, and I'll answer your query. I think Harun also said like, yeah, lambdas are anonymous functions. Yeah, basically they're like anonymous functions. They can also represent anonymous classes, if you're familiar with anonymous classes. I don't know if there's any other questions in regards to Kotlin and its syntax, or Android, or setting up something, or if there's something I've done too fast, or yeah, anything that just went over your head, feel free to just shoot. I guess that's it from me.
Thank you, David. Okay, Leila, kindly take over. I think Ivy communicated that you are not available, but you can just take over.
Thank you, David. Could you please leave your social media handles, if that's okay with you, like in the comment section, so that they can reach out to you?
Yeah, I think those two platforms are where you can find me easily.
Okay. There being no other question, I wish to say thank you to everyone who attended today's session, and also to tell you guys that this session we were recording, and it will be available in the DCSC Moi YouTube channel by latest tomorrow. Yeah, so you can go check it out if you missed on anything. So thank you for attending, and thank you so much, David. It was a pleasure having you. Yeah. So have a nice evening, everyone. Yeah. Have a nice day.
Bye.
Bye.